Tip. And yeah, we are live. Tip.
Hello. How's everyone?
Hello, viewers.
Hello.
All what? One of you? Hello. Anyway, we are back after quite a bit of hiatus. However, I would like to let you know this is a brand new campaign, a brand new universe full of opportunities and what all. Players, if you'd be so kind as to introduce yourselves.
I am Scavenger Hyena playing Sergeant Daxon Fahey, IRPF officer on administrative leave who's been roped into all this shenaniganry.
Well, I am Tygon. I will be playing Cecily Acidalia FC. At least I think that's how you pronounce it. Well, I'm never sure. This isn't my native language. Okay. A IRPF detective who is not roped into this. She actually wants to be part of this because it is an awesome career opportunity.
Hi there, I'm Strowski. I am playing Nusig, the TTI Nusig. It's kind of hard to explain what he is. He's given himself the title of Explorer, but ultimately his jobs are, well, this little here, little there. He doesn't really know what he's ever doing until he gets there.
And I'm Arcane, and I'll be playing Reese Lucifer, the progenitus doctor who somehow got roped in all of this weird conundrum of experiences.
Alright. And I am Rage. I will be your GM. Your god, as it were. And no, I won't be an angry god, despite the name. Most of the time. It'll depend on how many terrible puns are told.
Was about to say, I do not believe you.
Wow, well, I'm getting such warm fuzzy feelings. Great.
Hey, you weren't even that great of a funny guy when you played the last time.
Oh, that hurt.
Ooh, ouch. Starting with the low blow.
Oh, whatever will I do? Alright. Well, I don't see any reason why not to get started. The four of you, for various and sundry reasons, have been chosen because of your skills and abilities to perform an investigation on the Empyrean. Normally, such a grotto is very unwilling to take outsiders save they prove themselves. But as has been relayed to you, this is a special case, and while the details of the investigation have not yet been given to you, it has been made clear that all will be known once you arrive, and the pay seems pretty darn good. So, despite what misgivings you may or may not have, you have found yourselves loaded up on a unlikely transport, a large, fairly older model Mars Coast style cargo ship named the Rust Bucket.
Classy.
Well, for being as old as it was, it fairly deserves it. The holdings aren't meant for vectors or cogs or any living thing, really, but they have air and they have room to spread your legs if as necessary. And from what you can tell, the reason for such a auspicious form of vehicle is to keep it secret. Your employers don't want a lot of to-do about your involvement. They simply need you there to do the investigation. Your pilot seems a affable sort. An average-heighted gecko vector with a rather peculiar skin tone. He doesn't spend too much time talking to you, though, or engaging you much. Simply says that he's doing this for a favor that he owed and would rather keep the P's and Q's private.
Understandable.
One thing you do pick out is he's clearly been augmented in some way, and judging by his accent, probably from Ganymede. But it's a bit hard to pick here and there. You're, until now, you hadn't met your fellow spacegoers. It seems there are 4 of you: an avian, a hyena, a orca, and I believe the last one is an antelope?
No, it's a canine.
Canine?
Yep,
The
canine with
horns.
horns.
Aye, alright.
Cool.
Works for me. The 4 of you pile in, and you'll have plenty of time to get to know each other on your week-long flight to the Empyrean. It's gonna take a bit because of where it's at in its rotation around the sun, but hey, at least the cargo ship's got plenty of space.
So much room to stretch legs, arms, wings, whatever everybody happens to have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's cargo there, but for the most part, it seems to be pushed aside and out of your way.
Mm-hmm.
Would there be enough room to do some jogging?
Well, you could. You just wouldn't get very far and get a whole lot out of it.
I'll do circuits.
Well, my character's going to stretch his legs a little bit while reading what's up on the Ganymedian news. I mean, Empyrean news.
You won't find a whole lot. They don't really bring a whole lot out. Being a grotto, they tend to keep them to themselves for the most part.
Understandable.
However, you do hear plenty about what are dubbed hopefuls, or people looking to essentially gain a place in the Empyrean's higher echelons, or echelons, depending on how I want to say it. And they tend to be usually doing some various deeds of daring do. Not always morally upstanding ones, necessarily, but something no normal vector would ever attempt.
People trying to gain the public's favor.
Fickle thing, that.
Indeed.
Well, looking at the journey ahead, about how much time did you say that we had until we reached?
About a week.
About a week. Okay.
Wow, that's enough time for us to either get along splendidly or start to kill each other.
Mm-hmm.
At least we're not being murder hobos.
At least that's what you were told.
Fair enough.
It's
I forget
Go ahead.
where is the orbit of
The Empyrean?
Empyrean? Yeah.
Let me pull up the thing.
Because I'm looking at the map right now. Because I got the JPEG version of the map for being a backer. But
Oh,
I do
you lucky
not.
bastard.
Yeah, a little bit. But
The
it's a
Empyrean
gorgeous
ship.
map, but I can't find Empyrean on here.
I think it was on there.
It's in a
I
grotto.
might. Yeah, I might be blind, or
it is a grotto. It's actually on a space station.
yeah. Yep.
Yeah, but the question is, which space station?
The Empyrean, that's what the space station is called, if I remember correctly.
Yep. It's
You would be correct.
it's a grotto that takes up an entire like blue sky sized station. It's huge.
Yeah, it's quite large.
Kind of like a city station? More or
Yeah.
less?
Yeah, like
Yeah. It's actually significantly large. Taking up literal miles worth of distance in the space sky.
what does from an in character standpoint, what does Daxon know about it?
Well, in character, all of you would know some basic information. They don't use credits, for one. You know that for sure. They seem to have a very peculiar system for governing. You don't know a whole lot on that. You do know that the leader, quote unquote, is some dragon type of fellow. His name starts with a Z. You're sure if you looked it up on the SoulNet, you'd be able to find it pretty quickly.
Z. So, with the knowledge that so now I'm gonna start searching the higher, well, the person who made the Empyrean's name, starting with the Z.
Where? It's a blip named Zerazed, as you have found.
Zerazad. No. No, it's saying it's good to know.
Now then, you are briefly told by your pilot to buckle up, and then he mentions something almost offhandedly that catches you off guard. He says, "Now y'all know this is only gonna be a day or two flight to get there, right?"
Day or two? I thought it was a week.
So that's what they told you.
Indeed, that is what they told us.
I hate to tell you, those Empyrean folks like to keep secrets, even from those they're hiring or trusting.
It's okay. It's standard protocol for this kind of work.
They need to make sure you're actually willing to get there no matter how long it takes, and a week on a bucket like this ain't exactly someone's party time. So I got y'all's names: Nusig, Riss, Daxon, and Cecily, yeah?
Yes.
It's a pleasure. I'm Wes. I'll be your pilot. Welcome to the Rust Bucket.
Out of character, why does that name sound familiar?
It It's not Wesley.
I know, it just sounded familiar.
Not exactly very. How do you say? The name
Discreet.
doesn't inspire confidence.
Actually, out of character, I would say the name was just Reese.
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 Well, you are on your way to what's probably going to be big trouble in a Little Empyrean.
Roll credits. Ding.
Actually, I have a thing.
Ooh.
You overhear as your pilot engages in his radio system. It's not really a radio, it's him beaming data out to a given point, and then it hits other spacers. It's kind of like the old radio systems you'd find on Planet. You know, what truckers do when they're bored. They chatter.
And they listen to Radio Free Demos most of the time.
It depends.
Was that a paid advert?
No.
This is Wes Bolt talking to whoever's listening out there.
God.
Like I was telling my wife, I said, honey, I never fly faster than I can see. And besides that, it's all in the reflexes. You just listen to the old Rust Bucket and take his advice on a void-filled day in space. When some wild-eyed, 8-foot-tall maniac grabs you by the back of the neck, taps the back of your favorite head on the barroom wall, looks you crooked in the eye, and he asks you if you've paid your dues. Well, you just stare that big sucker right back in the eye, and you remember, well, Wes done told you. You look him in that eye, you say, yes, sir, the check is in the mail. Now, I ain't saying I've been everywhere, done everything, but I do know that it's an amazing system we live in, and a man would have to be some kind of stupid to think we're all alone in this universe. He goes on like this for about an hour or so before you finally tune him out.
So basically, he's podcasting.
Everyone has to have a hobby.
Well, you'd think it was podcasting if it wasn't for the fact that occasionally some other truckers, quote unquote, chime in, each with their own takes and stories. If it wasn't for the fact that you're pretty sure that this is either going well over your head or well below it, you might actually care.
Probably well below. It's a high possibility.
Jackson just shakes his head and goes, you know, I'd heard stories about people going crazy in space. Didn't think I'd ever experience it firsthand.
Please, recommend if they do go crazy. I'm no psychiatrist, but I'll do my best.
Cecily is wearing an expression that says, I thought I had left people behind like that when I moved to the Vale.
I cannot wait to forget this one. By the way, Dr. Witherspoon, what kind of doctor are you?
Well, jack of all trades, master of none one.
Got it. So if I get shot, don't come to you.
Knew I should have brought a perk.
Noted.
Well, Daxon, with the announcement and podcast out of the way, is going to go back to jogging. Although, with limited space, it's more him running circles.
Well, Reese is going to try and at least get some manner of relaxation in trying to find out what's happening on Empyrean, or any news relating to what's happened. Also, possibly some rather remarkable landmarks that Empyrean has to try out.
Just to double check, would my whatchamacallit, would my toggle have a net connection out here?
Well, you'd have to route it through the actual SolNet connection of the ship you're on. So technically yes, but it'd be slow and annoying.
Yeah, I guess I'll just have to wait till we get there then. I guess while we're waiting, I'm gonna sit up close to the pilot, near as I can, and ask questions, piloting questions, whenever he stops talking.
Which he does. Eventually. Any particular questions, or are you just pestering?
He's just gonna ask generic stuff like, what does that light mean? How long have you been flying? How did you learn to fly? The generic stuff.
So pestering.
Yes.
About how old is Nusig?
He doesn't exactly know. He's guessing somewhere in his mid-20s.
Alright. I had a feeling, but I just wanted to make sure. The gecko turns around, and for the first time you actually get a good look at his face. You're pretty sure he's not a vector. You're pretty sure.
And what makes me think that?
Considering the fact that his skin tone looks like copper plating, and his eyes most definitely do not look like standard vector eyes. Having gear shapes for your irises is a little bit weird.
Yes, but considering where we're going, I have to redefine my definition of weird, or at least put it on hold.
Which might be exactly why they picked this guy.
Just a bar over his head, just parsing, updating, weirdness threshold realized.
Alright, look, kid. Do you want to be a pilot?
Yeah, desperately, but every time I go to take the exams, I always get the new record low.
Well, I hate to tell you, I'm not very good at teaching newbies. You'd have to at least have a basic pilot license before you could even talk to me about flying. I've forgotten more about it than you'll likely ever know. It's not an insult. It's true. One too many hits to the head. He turns back to his command console, but from what you can tell, he doesn't actually seem to need to be adjusting anything a whole lot. So either he's using a well-established route, or he just knows enough to let the machine do most of the work.
Probably the latter.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
I mean, even if the questions are dumb, even if they're moderately basic, borderline on, fundamental, he still cares. We have we have time, and with a poor internet connection, it's not like he can read books or watch internet tutorials.
That's true.
Still not sure if pestering the pilot is the best way to spend the journey.
Well, feel free to intervene.
Oh no. Cecily, for the most part, is working on her toggle, and I mean it's not it doesn't look like she's like browsing the Soulnet or something. It does look like she's working. Oh, and occasionally she will she can be seen just wandering around with a puff in her beak.
Now, all of you have had a moment or two to get more or less acquainted with your fellows.
Oh, right, yeah, that
However-
should probably happen too.
However, our fine audience might not be so familiar with each of you. Is there anything you'd like to describe of your characters before we skip ahead to arriving at the Empyrean?
I mean, we probably should.
Daxon is a digitigrade spotted hyena vector, about 6'3" or just a hair over 2 meters. Fairly well built, a little stocky. He's got a very kind of relaxed, friendly demeanor, just very casual. His body language doesn't really scream security as much as his outfit does. But despite that, he actually is a fairly weathered-looking individual for somebody in their 30s. Some fairly distinctive scarring around the where his muzzle meets his cheekbones. But otherwise fairly standard hyena markings with a black mane and dark eyes. Very fidgety, constantly working. If he can't work on his toggle, he's jogging or wandering.
So, Reese here is a plantigrade canine with rather dark colored fur with dark straight horns that come out of his head. But he does have rather crystal blue eyes that are seen, but he does wear some glasses on his muzzle. Appearance-wise, he's rather toned and he's very attractive, okay, to say the least. And he typically wears the progenitus standard outfit for a doctor, like white jacket with some red accents, with the progenitus symbol on his upper back, with the black shirt underneath with a few medical supplies around his belt, standard pants, and shoes. His body posture is more relaxed on trying to figure out information than just but he's always willing to assist those if there's a accident or anything else.
Okay. Nusik is a digitigrade Orca Delphindae at 5 foot, at a lanky 5'8". He looks really, really skinny, like the kind of guy who you would dump off on your grandmother to fill up like a holiday turkey. He walks around and struts with confidence, as if he knows everything and has everything planned in advance. His charm, wit, general knowledge are all on point at a moment's notice, and he acts like the main hero in a classical spy movie. But there's one problem. None of his actions match his demeanor, so his charm is always ham-fisted, ineffective, and usually results in a drink to the face or worse. His punchlines are always one joke behind, to the point where a dad joke would be an improvement. And most of all, his facts that he quotes are accurate only in children's introductory picture books, which probably compromise a big portion of his reading list.
In other words, he's trying his best.
Of course.
Sounds like the clients that usually are about a couple days before walking in my door.
Well, I guess it's my turn then. Cecily is a silky, a kind of chicken known for being exceedingly fluffy. And while she is not quite so fluffy that it obscures her features or almost anything else, she is very, very fluffy. It's the kind of fluffy where you kind of want to like pet her to see how fluffy it actually is.
Oh no.
However, that's usually stopped once she has her like professional demeanor, because well, she is a cop, and she has had to deal with the more nasty elements of society, and but she has learned to make her fluffy and very non-threatening appearance work for her. But it can be a bit shocking when she gets all hardline on people. And well, regarding her looks, I'm going to take the very easy route, because since I'm streaming, I can just show the pictures I have of her.
Cheater.
Sorry.
She's white with a black beak.
Yep. White fluffy feathers all over, black hands, black feet, and she has the birdish feet. And yeah, blue eyes, and that is pretty much what I can think of. I have written this little intro. If you would like, I can read that.
I would not mind.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Thank you for reminding me of mine.
I haven't practiced this, so I'm just gonna do it. Sorry if I mess it up. Acidalia. The name rings of importance. It is a name older than the vector race, older than the colonization of Mars, older than space travel itself. A name from a different time, different age, a different species. Many vector families took names like this. Names their home had carried for centuries before them. It gave them a sense of connection to their world. And as the centuries passed, the families carrying these names became some of the most well-known in the entire system. Cecily had always been proud of her family's history. And it wasn't until it was her turn to carry on the proud tradition that she realized what a horrible burden such a name can be. With the help of a demanding but supportive family, she soon found her calling, though, and enrolled in an IRPF academy. As she graduated, as she rose through the ranks, she came to see it less and less as a burden, but as a destiny. A destiny Cecily Acidalia is determined to live up to.
Very nice.
Thank you.
I wrote a little in-character quote for Daxon. If you, I believe I sent it to you, Rage, the other day.
Mm-hmm.
But should anyone essentially pull the publicly listed personnel file for Daxon, he has a profile on the IRPF's personnel database that's and that which is not redacted is mostly just PR information and him presenting to various schools. And in one of the presentations, he was asked to provide a mission statement for his precinct. And on the stage, he took a moment, looked at the audience, and said, "A well-trained vector is able to react to stimulus in less than a quarter of a second. With constant drill, mental exercise, and peak physical conditioning, you can cut that time in half. But at the academy, we don't just learn to react. We learn how to stop incidents before they happen. We learn to be the bulwark against risk, violence, disaster, but we can't be everywhere. Sometimes it's all you can do to just pick up the pieces, save what's left. That's our job."
Nice.
All right. Anyone else?
I think that's it.
Awesome.
Right on.
Well then. Let me see.
So we only have a couple of days according to the pilot. We don't have access to Empyrean net. Well, I guess time to relax and get acquainted.
Mm-hmm.
As you sit back and get acquainted with one another, you hear the pilot say over his shoulder and through his bulkhead, "I'm gonna be opening up the windows. You're gonna want to see this."
What's happened?
As the outer shutters open, you can see through the what would we call glass, but we all know clearly it's not, meteors streaking past. They're distant,
Ooh.
Oh.
but you can see the whole of the Sol system arrayed out for you. Glittering flashes of light in the distance. You know, some of us in this job, spacers I mean, folk who spend their time out here in the big black, some folks don't think we take the time to appreciate the beauty that we have around us. But it's moments like that that makes this job worth it. Now, I don't know what y'all are gonna be doing once I get you there. But the way I figure it, I reckon you could use a little perspective. Know what I mean?
Jackson kind of slowly nods and says, "Yeah, more than you think sometimes."
Now then, I'm gonna shut my pie hole and get us there safe like. And here's hoping they didn't hook up a more pain in the ass AI than me. Well, here's our trail. The next few days are a bit of a blur. It's not exactly an active blur, but if you were to be asked later what you all talked about, and how you became at least functioning friends, if not, functioning coworkers, if not friends, you really couldn't put your finger on it. But at the very least, from what you've gathered, everybody's here to do a job, and they're going to do their best to get it done. Okay. Now, for a little bit of GM magic.
How about a magic trick? Ooh.
Very fancy.
Cool.
You finally pulled in, and the rust bucket has fled its coop, as it were, and you've been left standing on the docking bay with massive bay doors closed behind you, which open straight to the black. The Empyrean itself, as you had gotten a glimpse as you were arriving, was shaped vaguely like a giant steel tree. You're pretty sure at some point you read stories about some human religion or another having a giant tree in it, but you can't remember who it was supposed to be. It didn't really matter, but the comparison was there all the same. You'd wager you're probably somewhere in the middle of that tree, or the bottom. You're not sure. Wes didn't exactly tell you, and he closed the shutters before you got near enough to get a better view of where you were headed. You can see several different engineer or stocking types. You're not quite sure who's who, bustling about. There are a few other spaceships docked here and there, most of them smaller, the kind that you'd expect maybe for one or two people at most, and usually for only hopping from the station to another station, or perhaps a nearby asteroid, or maybe even a planet if the Empyrean even rotates that close to one. Soon enough, though, a large red squirrel catches your attention and waves to you from underneath one of the nearby ships.
Okay.
Looks like there's somebody here to greet us.
Well, give them a professional, friendly smile and a polite wave.
Mm-hmm.
He grins back and continues to beckon you over towards the ship.
All of us can't move our tokens.
What? Ah! Come on! I I friggin' set that up ahead of time. Don't you even me. Darn thing. There. They fix that.
Yep, it's working now.
And there we are. Sorry
Finally.
about that. As you get closer, you realize something very interesting about this red squirrel. He's very clearly a vector, and that's not surprising. It's the fact that he's very also clearly a lateral, the size of a standard vector.
Oh.
Oh.
Cool.
He greets you in a fairly high-pitched tone and a thick accent. It takes you a few seconds to parse together what he said. You're pretty sure that's not a standard accent, and you're going to guess it's either some kind of affectation or it's something that he kind of picked up from the Empyrean. You're not sure which, and you're also not sure if you should ask him.
It's better to let sleeping dogs lie.
Or in this case,
Probably just very
hearing
polite.
acorns stay buried. Hi, I'm Radadosk. Nice to meet you. I'm the head engineer here.
Wait, correction. Did you say Ratatosk?
Radadosk. None of that corruption perversion on the language.
Well, it's a
Just call
pleasure
me
to meet you.
Rads. Everyone else does. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
That's not a character right now.
Out of character, is it polite to ask a lateral to shake hands?
Well, considering he has hands, I
I
don't see a
mean, that-
problem.
Fair enough. So I'll offer a hand to shake and say, Daxon Fahey, Security Sergeant.
Ah, then I know exactly who you all are. As he takes your hand in a tight grip, you notice that the bones in his are still very much a squirrel's. But there's something also slightly off in how strong a grip that is. You're fairly certain that that this giant squirrel is much more than he appears. Which, hey, he's a giant squirrel. Literally. That's not exactly a typical thing for you. And Nusig's resolution that he may or may not have mentioned to the rest of you earlier about changing his expectations for the weird. Yeah, you're gonna be. The rest of you might be start thinking that might be a good idea to adopt that mentality. Unfortunately, my friends, I don't have time for you. I have other stuff I have to be doing. That said, Zlalko can take care of you. Zlalko, get over here, man. I need you. Now, if you were the superstitious types, you might swear that some kind of monster was headed over your direction. But, seeing as how he's actually a little bit shorter than some of you, it's not so bad.
LSE find him a bar fight.
The being that Radadosk referred to as Lalko pads his way over to you. You can clearly hear the click of massive toe claws against the steel grating. Somehow, in his lateral hands, he's managed to hold on to a tablet. And if his stern expression is anything to go by, he has no patience for anyone's bullshit ever.
Also noted.
All business, no pleasure.
The T-posed vector is very clearly either a lever stance or some kind of lever stanced blip. And judging by the size of his claws, you're pretty sure he shouldn't be able to be so dexterous with them. But hey, once again, your threshold for weird is just going to exponentially increase. What do you want? Well, you could be polite and say, yes, sir. I could. Sees Loco, this is why, you know what? We don't have time for this. These are our guests. The ones for... Up. Not out here. Alright, follow me. Mind the tail. As he flips about, you can see he clearly wasn't joking. The thing is at least as thick as Cecily's waist, if not Reese's as well. You also note that there's spines along the entirety of his back, and he's wearing some form of armor. It looks very decorative, but from the combat veterans in the room, they can clearly tell with just a glance, it's not just for ceremony.
I mean, given that this is the spaceport, it makes sense.
Well, Reese is definitely thinking to himself that I guess that we're the aliens in this place.
Cecily comments sort of under her breath. I had to take in a gal with a tail like that once. That wasn't a fun day.
If you don't mind my asking, are those things poisonous?
The laugh curls his long reptilian face into an almost sneering expression. You're not sure if he's physically capable of smiling. He might just not be. No. But I might be looking into that now that you've brought it up. Poison barbed. Uh-oh. Perseus would love that.
Perseus?
Before he can, you can pursue that, conversation, you're greeted by probably the most handsome lion you have ever laid eyes upon.
Oh my.
Easily at least 7 feet tall, and even through a very fine and well-crafted suit of what you think might be silk, you can tell he's built like a rock and is particularly statuesque. His voice is big, booming, but gentle. It reminds you of a steady river. You're not quite sure why that comes to your mind, but that's what it is.
Remember to restrain yourself, Tygon.
You're not my real dad.
I'm sure Tygon has regrets not making a lioness.
He bows deeply to the four of you and speaks with what you assume is supposed to be a quiet tone, but still feels like it reverberates through your chests. Greetings, my friends. I am Sir Percival. It's a pleasure to meet your acquaintance. Please, if you would, follow me. I will explain our situation as we go along. Shall we?
Daxon kind of gives him a curt, nodding bow and says, "Thank you for having us, sir."
Please, it is a title. Percival shall be fine.
As you wish.
There's your first Percival.
Now then, I believe you are Dr. Reese, Officer Nusig, Officer Cecily, and Officer Daxon, correct?
That is correct.
Correct.
That's correct.
As you go through the white plated walls with gold lining, you're struck by how beautiful almost everything in the Empyrean is. While not necessarily idyllic, it is rather ornate. Even the simple displays that you see every now and again, some of the workers engaging with, even them have some hint of a more grand purpose to them. You've also noted in the short amount of time that you've gone from here to an elevator that will lead, that seems to be intended to lead you higher up, that you have noticed more blips and odd shapes than you've seen almost anywhere else. That is not to say you don't see a standard vector or cog, chassis, or body type here and there, but almost universally there's some unique trait about them. Not a single individual, even within the same species, is quite the same. It's as if the wide variety that all of Seoul had to offer was jammed into one tiny place. Relatively speaking, of course.
And for once, Daxon feels out of place.
Precisely.
I think all of us feel out of place.
I feel like I stepped into one of my picture books.
You are not the first to say such. It is not often we have strangers among us. We are reclusive. I would hope that we would be more open to our neighbors and fellow vectors. To lead better by example, you see.
I understand that this might be a unorthodox situation for the Empyrean, and I apologize if our presence here causes any friction, but I understand that we are here in a professional capacity, and for what it's worth, I hope that we can resolve this in a manner that is not disruptive.
It is good you feel that way, but unfortunately your presence here has already sent ripples. You see, our ways are not the ways of the outsiders. We do not deal in credits, nor in corporate espionage, though a form of competition, as it does indeed take place. Here we measure a vector, or a being of any nature, by their merits, and merit alone. This means if you want our respect, you must earn it. And how you earn it depends on whom they are ascribed to. You see, the leaders here are members of what is called the Pantheon. It is not an exaggeration to say they are almost gods amongst mortals.
And you, sir, first of all, is a member of said pantheon?
A very kind compliment, but no. I am a mere hopeful, a knight in the service to one of many. I serve the Lord Thoth, the librarian and keeper of all knowledge on the Empyrean, and the one who organized your investigation.
We'll send thanks if we ever meet them.
You will. And consider yourselves very privileged. Not many meet the Pantheon on their first day on the Empyrean.
Wait, today? I mean, don't you want us to get a little bit more presentable?
Of course. It will all be part of the rituals necessary. Those who will guide you through them will inform you more on that. I have more pressing in general information that I have been instructed to give you. As I mentioned, I am one of the knights. There are other names for them depending on whom they serve, but to put a long explanation shorter, we are those who serve the will of the Pantheon and the members thereof. I serve Thoth. There are others. Some who are less scrupulous in their methods of attaining glory and merit.
You prefer the rifle solution?
I prefer open communication. I prefer peace. Just because I could crush a man's head in my hand does not mean I wish to. Honey is always sweeter than a stick. While the
No.
stick might be needed, I would rather work with honey. My brother says, with my taste for food analogies, I should have been a cook. I say, he eats too much as it is. As Percival's... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say Daxon has a very kind of small smile that he's attempting to hide.
As Percival guides you through the various portions of an almost maze-like space station, you notice that many of the larger doors have various engravements or are colored differently. There seems to be a very complex system of knowing where each thing is and how to get to different places. You're fairly certain that to the natives it's simple and easy, but to anyone who isn't, it's almost as bad as a spyglass ship.
And what's that supposed to mean?
It's supposed to mean that anyone who's not used to it will be easily lost.
Okay.
Fucking hell.
Well, Daxon is used to clearly labeled quarters and laboratories and that such thing, so he's just sort of looking around with this thin, pursed frown.
I'm used to being lost all the time, so whoop whoop.
We're just gonna try and memorize some of the ways so that if they ever get lost, they'll probably find a way to what corridor they went through.
Okay. That will need a check.
First roll of the game.
Yay!
Now the question
So
is,
you
will
know
we
how
get
to
it
do it,
right?
yeah?
Yeah,
Two dice?
mind perceive.
No. I'm specifically asking to make sure that you know the system for rolling the checks and things.
Yeah, D10.
Okay. Good. Well, here's the thing. Bum, bum, bum. The difficulty of what you're being asked is pretty hard. You've only been here for a short time, so unfortunately, that first roll is going to be an 8. Not because you're bad at this sort of thing, but because of the difficulty of the task. However, are correct on the D10. I will need a mind perceive. Let's see.
Mind perceive logic.
Maybe even protocol?
I would accept either one of those.
Let's do logic.
Okay.
$20.
Nice.
All right.
Off to an auspicious start.
All right. So you haven't gotten everything memorized, but you have gotten a few of the color codings figured out. From what you can tell, you're gonna guess that the various Pantheon members and subgroups of them have these symbols assigned to them, and each symbol tells you how to get to their inner sanctum. And from what you can gather just by simple observation, only certain members of the Empyrean populace can get in and out certain doors. They either need some kind of passcode or some kind of key. You're not quite sure, as you aren't able to observe exactly how they're getting in and out, but you can tell only those wearing properly colored emblems matching have entered in and out the larger doors. The smaller ones seem to be more general, either maintenance, standard thoroughfare. The doors themselves are smaller, but the actual hallways are large. So it's not all that difficult to move around. And eventually you are brought to a central courtyard with what looks to be a park in the center and many different what look to be housing buildings. This is where you'll be staying. The central court is home to all who are not hopefuls or assigned to any of the Pantheon or below. It is also the central market where we trade with goods and skills, as well as engage in friendly recreational. Interrupting him is a large ball that whizzes past his face. Activities.
Dexon actually kind of jumps at the flying ball, tenses a little bit, but then relaxes.
Considering it's roughly the size of your head, that's understandable.
Fraser's just looking at it, just blank face.
I want to look at where it came from.
Cecily turns to see where it's going.
Cecily, you get the auspicious grace of getting to gift of getting to watch someone get belted in the back of the head with a large ball. They go sprawling and drop several what look like data disks all over the floor. Poor fellow.
Oh.
Now, Daxon, I believe you were the one looking from where it came from?
No, that was Nusig.
Nusig. Sorry.
Daxon instead is going to go, like, help the person pick up data disks.
Nusig, sorry. I got mixed up there. Nusig, you see several large, well, they've got to be boys. They don't look quite like men yet. The youth is all too easily plastered on their face. But then again, it's kind of hard to tell. Their body shapes are all kinds of different things, but they look to be somewhere in their teenage years, if you'd have to guess. The one you're supposing threw the ball, based upon his posture and his shocked expression, you pause, blink, and shake your head. It's a unicorn. Why? You ask yourself. Why?
Oh no, I don't ask myself why. There are plenty of young girls who would love to do that.
This is a boy.
That's a guy, damn it!
Yes, well, some people have different tastes than others. Get over it.
At least he doesn't have rainbow hair.
You're speculating. You're not that he might.
Well, it's not helpful because, fortunately for you, as he approaches, you can tell his mane scintillates. So yes, it literally is a rainbow.
Oh, I can't see this on stream.
The rest of him is pale as fresh snow. And his compatriots are as varied and colorful as he is. Sorry about that. He gasps and tries to shrink and hide behind Nusig when he sees Percival. Isaac, that was you. Yes. Go get it and apologize. And watch what you're doing next time. Again. Yes, Percival. Sir Percival. Yes, Sir Percival. You hear in a very defeated tone and echo by all of the other boys. At least you think they're boys. It's getting hard to tell.
I kind of look over to Percival and say, common.
They're rambunctious. But good boys.
That reminds me. Speaking of proper behavior, if one of us were to, say, get lost while walking around here, is there any sort of particular rule of thumb for, not causing a scene?
Ah, yes. Follow the white doors marked with the home symbol, with the home rune. You'll find them easily.
Okay, thank you.
They lead back to the courtyard. And if you get lost elsewhere, look for a symbol of, well, a lion.
Easy enough.
That
Easy
will
enough.
lead you to my home. He points over at the wall. This is the codex. He taps it, and suddenly a large panel reveals itself, a digital pane. And it's absolutely covered in a plethora of symbols and colors and hues. This one, he taps a bright golden one. It looks vaguely like him. Only vaguely. This was the symbol of my father. And his. Our family has been in the Empyrean a while. Stars rest their souls. Anyway, if you should get lost, tap the side panels, tap the sides of the doors, or the walls nearby, and a codex should open up, and it will tell you how to get to and fro. Make sense?
Makes sense.
Easy
Now
enough.
then, the most important thing I am to tell you is that when you are in the presence of the Pantheon, you are to give them your utmost respect. You are here because the Council allowed you to be here. And while they may need you, they need your service, not you as a person. That is not something I wish to say, but it nonetheless must be said.
At least you're coming clean with us, Sir Percival.
I am merely doing my duty.
Noted.
Heavy as a mountain, as always. In light of that, you will notice we have not removed your arms. Because you are outsiders, we will allow you them. But do keep in mind, the residents of the Empyrean, many of them are more than formidable. Some of them will require you to fight them before they will give you even the time of day. My brother is one such. Be careful of him. I love him, but he thinks more with his fists than he does with his head or his heart.
Noted. Is there a visual thing? I can't do words today.
Is
Is there a
there
visual difference between the two of you?
He's bigger,
Big
and,
girl. Okay.
well, I try to make myself live up to the noble bearing of the legendary lions of old, the lions rampant. My brother prefers to live up to the ferocity and invulnerability of the Numians. You will definitely know Perseus when you see him.
Well, I certainly hope so.
Wait. Perseus. That's what the reptilian said before we met with you.
Zlalko, one of Perseus's followers. They're not a bad sort, but they believe in martial prowess over everything else. And that is why, as your liaison, I am unfortunately bear the burden to inform you that it is where they spend their time that we are going. You see, a murder most foul has happened.
Murder.
With all due respect, Sir Percival, should we be speaking of this in a public area?
They will only tell what they are allowed to tell. And even then, it may not be believed. Remember, while we may not have corporate espionage, courtly machinations are not something we are unfamiliar to. Come. First to my home. As he takes you along, in some cases very literally has to take you along, as Some of those doors are pretty big. And from what you can tell, he doesn't even bother with most of the keypads or cards. He simply just pushes against it and it opens. Either the doors know to open for him, or he's just strong enough to force it.
Oh,
Probably pushing them. Probably pushing them to show his strength.
Mm.
I want to just try and see if I can even move it.
It doesn't strike me as somebody who would feel it necessary to do that.
His brother may.
yeah.
Yeah, but he made it very clear that he is not his brother.
How do we know that?
Because he said so.
But that's just him saying things, and he said that they look almost exactly identical.
Hey, look,
no, he
it's
said
April
his...
Fool's Day. We're critical and suspicious of everything. Oh wait, no, it's just another day of playing a tabletop. Never mind.
No, he said his brother is bigger.
He said his brother is bigger, but that's not really much to go on.
Yes, but
It
with
could
no other information, we need to go with what we know, and right now that is all we know.
Exactly.
I'm just playing the bad advocate.
Well, as you go along, you see various vectors, some of whom bow to you. Their costumes are wide and varied and oftentimes colorful. And you could have sworn you saw a squid somewhere.
What?
You're pretty sure.
Pretty sure we saw a squid or saw a blooper.
A squid.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Why do I feel hungry?
Do you say that
Wow.
loud?
Wow.
Did you say that out loud?
No. God, no.
We all know that.
I may be an idiot, but I'm not that big of an idiot. I mean, I was even smart enough to know not to ask the rest of you in my group, when did I get promoted to an officer?
Here we are. You come up to a deceptively simple looking door. It looks like wood, but when you touch it, it's very clearly not. Just faux. This is my home. It is attached to the land, to the domain of Lord Thoth. I would advise you to be aware it's rather hot in there. And as he opens the door, you're hit by a literal wave of heat.
That's a shift in temperature.
Mm-hmm. As he strides in, you see that he's suddenly standing upon what looks like an open plain. And in the distance, you can see a larger river and desert. And you have to remind yourself it's on a ship. And you're not somewhere on Venus.
With all due respect, Percival, what the hell?
Did I not tell you? He has a very small grin on his face. Each of the domains is built according to that particular lord or lady's wishes. Thoth prefers the warm. And while it is not always so unseasonably hot, I see fit to take my small portion and keep it in line with my lord's. He is a fair master after all.
Daxon's brows kind of shoot up and he remarks, I can't imagine the resources that it would take to keep the atmosphere regulated like this. The mechanical elements must be impressive. Forgive me, I was stationed on Blue Sky and smaller stations during most of my duty.
You met the squirrel. Radadosk. Or should I call him Lord Radadosk? He is the only member of the Pantheon who does not deign to take a domain of his own. Rather, he works the entirety of the Empyrean, and he designed the system with which allows us to maintain this.
Wait, the giant ball of fluff we met earlier is a member of the Pantheon?
He is the most humble of them. In many ways, I wish to aspire to be like him, but not for his taste of mischief. I would rather not put salt in the sugar shaker.
Good to know.
Understood.
Cecily is taking notes.
You are wise. Lord Thoth will like you. Not merely because you share a certain trait. He guides you over to what looks at first like a pagoda, and then as you get closer you realize it simply has a very well done facade painted over the side. Either that, or it's simply HoloLensed to blend into the background, except for the columns. It's fairly It has a, what's the word? A curtain instead of a door. This is my home. It is humble, but I like it. We will speak more once we are in the central courtyard. There you may bathe. One of my attendants will see to your clothes and make sure that they are properly on.
Excellent.
Thank you.
My thanks.
Excuse me.
As you enter in, it is deceptively cooler in here. Not as, not as room temperature and controlled and almost sterile an environment as the hallways had been. This is a more natural cool. As if the heat wasn't being artificially turned down, so much as being relieved by the nature of the construction of the building you have entered. It has a decidedly almost Romanesque construction, and you now understand what he meant by being able to bathe in the central courtyard. There's what looks to be a pond, or a pool of some sort, in the very center. And the roof of the pagoda is open, allowing sunlight, or what passes for sunlight, to trickle in and allow the rest of the central courtyard to be lit. It's roughly the size of a standard home. So, like he said, it's not exactly massive. It's no mansion. It has several rooms, but you can see a stairwell down towards the back of the courtyard, as well as various columns and a few paintings and tapestries. There seems to be a lot of decorative elements here and there. You are also struck by the relative attractiveness of the few people who are here. While admittedly no one seems to be as strikingly handsome, on an almost supernatural level as Percival, any one of these could have easily competed with a Pulse athlete or star. Even some beacons might have taken a lesser note too on how to look good. And last but not least, you'll notice that they're all dressed in a similar manner to Percival himself, in white flowing robes of sorts. They don't go exactly far down, they're rather like tunics. They go about down to the knee in the men's cases, and a bit further down to the calves in the women's. They're a little loose, but they seem to breathe well.
So you're saying their ankles are showing?
Scandalous.
They're not Bassidans.
Well, when presented with a opportunity to launder, bathe, and relax a little bit after the long couple-day voyage, Daxon will give his thanks and check in on what exactly the bathing protocol is.
I'd imagine they're probably going to give us something to wear over top. Doesn't look like nudity's a big thing here. Or we just came in early.
As Percival begins to remove his own robe, it's pretty clearly understood what the protocol is. That central pool is the bath.
I stand corrected.
So, Percival pauses, though. Forgive me. I'm too used to our own ways. If you would prefer privacy, there is a room where they can help, where help given. Privacy may be had.
Daxon shrugs, seemingly unfazed, and says, "The locker rooms at the academy were always co-ed."
Newsig's already stripping off his armor, saying, well, we might as well learn the local customs if we want to help figure if we want to fit in here.
Yeah. No, as they say, when on Venus.
I'm fairly certain that's not where it comes from. Reese,
Well,
you were saying?
he's just going to get some, well, a private room to undress.
Well, private, air quotes. You're still followed in by an attendant. Well, two. One male, one female.
You'll get used to this.
They take some bath water for you from the pool itself, which doesn't seem to ever really lose water. Either the system's really well done, or there's probably a flow form generator somewhere in there.
Neat.
But there is a gentle current in the pool. Nothing unpleasant, just simply something that seems to help get all the grime, dirt, sweat, and all that off a little bit easier. Robes. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Cool water sounds like a welcome respite.
Mm-hmm. And it is indeed a very pleasant feeling. You are presented with robes, but unlike the white ones worn by everyone present, these are a simple brown. Similar material, but very clearly not of the same quality. But more than serviceable. I am afraid I I am not exactly the best of hosts. Very rarely do we have guests, and unfortunately, I am not allowed to give you better protocol, as it were. He gives you a rueful smile, and for a moment, he looks a little sad.
It's perfectly understandable. I'd imagine that due to the infrequency of guests, there's probably a reason.
Indeed. Now then, when you meet Lord Thoth, I would remind you, show the utmost respect. It would not go amiss nor be inappropriate to kneel. He commands much power in the Empyrean, despite what he may say.
To ask, are there any words we should avoid?
My lord is very kind, and has an insatiable thirst for knowledge of all kinds. You see, that is his great work. His magnus opus, I believe? He would correct me. I am a terrible student.
Magnum opus.
Ah, yes, thank you. His great work is to build the single largest library the solar system has ever known. And while one might suppose that all that information could be acquired on the SoulNet, this is not so. It does not refer to a digital library, though he has made that, but rather a physical library. Actual books on every and any given subject imaginable.
Impressive.
Cecily looks baffled at that. Like her expression clearly says that she thinks that is just not possible.
Well, he has spent a lifetime or two building this library. He doesn't have all of them ever written yet, but he's going to try.
Well, there's no shame in trying.
And certainly none in allowing, on his death, all of that to go to the public. You see, his work came and was inspired by something that the humans used to have. A public library. And he thought to himself, why should anyone have to go to various portions of the SoulNet? Why should anyone have to waste their time looking for a physical copy of only one book, when all of that could be had in a single place? All of that could be gathered, compiled, copied, and be given out freely. Desirad thought such an endeavor worth the time it took. It also helped that Lord Thoth was fairly helpful in navigating the various factions of the Empyrean.
Would this library be accessible? Would this be something appropriate to ask the Lord?
Of course, you are his guests. His library, his home, is yours. Just remember, do not take too many liberties. While he's exceedingly patient, he is still a lord and master.
Noted.
Do you have any other questions? Anything you would like to know?
When are we scheduled to meet this lord?
As soon as you are able. If you are unhungered, we can feed you. Though I imagine the Lord would love to engage in conversation over tea.
How did you meet Lord Thoth, Percival?
I was born here. I knew him all my life. I have never actually known the outside world very much. Only what I've studied. Truth be told, you are only the second group of outsiders I've ever met.
Who was
Second.
first?
You met one of them on the way, I'm sure. An interesting fellow.
Was Bolt, I take it.
The mechanical one, yes. Though, I am uncertain as to whether or not he would find that description complimentary. I will have to ask him next we meet.
Maybe after this investigation, Percival. Would you mind going out to the outside world for studying the culture?
My place is here for now, while I seek to discover what my work shall be, that I might one day ascend to stand at Lord Thoth's side, not as his vassal, but as his equal.
Understandable.
Admirable.
Now,
With that, I think Daxon is going to go ahead and take advantage of the bath and not eat up any more of Sir Percival's time.
well, you wouldn't be, considering that he's bathing with you. It's a large pool. It's not small.
It's a very large pool, yes.
It's not so much a swimmable pool. It's not that deep. But it's more than capable of holding at least 6 to 7 people inside of it at once, with room to spare for a little bit of wiggling. Even someone as large as Sir Percival.
Wiggling.
What I think about it in another direction.
Left field, thy name is? As you bathe, Percival speaks again. The murder. It was a member of the Pantheon.
Who?
Nordrun Gronhood. Also
I get you.
called Nordrun the Verdant. My brother's master.
Nordrun the Verdant.
This sounds really, really sensitive.
It is.
Is that why we were brought in?
The death of a member of the Pantheon was many thought impossible. Clearly, even a dragon can die. You see, Lord Nordrun...
Just take your time, Percival.
He and Lord Thoth have never seen eye to eye. But both had the respect of their peers. When Nordrun was killed, a nigh invincible being was destroyed. You must understand, the members of Pantheon, they make the most powerful pulse athletes look as mere children. I believe the term you might use for them is biopro. These are beings who are capable of truly magnificent feats of destruction, but also creativity and creation itself. The closest thing to immortal a person can be.
How was this individual killed?
A lance.
Straight to his chest.
No! His hide was too thick for that. This is a dragon. He is not some mere lizard. No toad this. He was particularly proud of it. The lance went through his throat. It was believed he choked on it. And was unable to remove it. Then, we presume it was after, but it could have been while he was yet alive. That hide he was so proud of was split about his belly and his intestines torn out. His blood was used to write a series of symbols. Lord Thoth has been researching their meaning. He may have found something by now, which is hopefully information you can gather from him when you meet him.
And, would I be able to take a look at the body, Sir Percival? I am a doctor, after all.
I am afraid not. As per Verdant's wishes, he has been his flesh has been burned away, and his bones were used in the construction of armor. I've never understood that desire to be adorned to some warrior. If it was I would rather not be worn like some cheap pelt.
Or a throwaway rug.
Normal than that. But for Lord Nordrund, there was something he said of sympathetic magic to imbue his strength into his successor. While I do not agree, it is important to honor a lord's wish. Now, he stands, both shaking off the wetness from his fur and the topic of conversation. I will get myself prepared. Please, Take your time, and when you are ready, allow Elise to adorn you and bring you to myself and Lord Thoth. I bid you good day until we meet again.
It's good to meet you, Sir Percival. Thank you.
Ever at your service. And with that, he leaves.
I tend to look over at the others and say, well, it seems some of the Pantheon is dead.
No wonder
So-
they brought in outsiders.
Is it just me,
Finally.
or does anybody else think that description sounded extremely personal?
I don't know, but cremating the bodies, wish, but look at the body would tell some instances of what happened.
My supervisors would have had a fit if they had found out a body had been cremated before a proper autopsy.
Well, unfortunately, these are the people in charge here. We can only hope there were some sort of recordings.
Is it possible maybe he was targeted specifically because he had that in his set, in his arranged?
Or maybe someone's looking for a bit of a power vacuum.
Who knows, maybe.
Political or personal, I don't know which, but those are the two motives that first come to mind.
Or maybe they're letting him as a threat.
More often than not, murder victims are killed by those that they know, not strangers. And in an environment like this, someone that high ranking is mostly going to be in the council of his peers, not lesser individuals. That is, unless this was an attempt to rise through the ranks. Too early to tell.
That may be true, but I believe it. But I hope Nordren's peers, followers, will allow us to do our investigation smoothly with their cooperation.
I have a feeling there will be problems in that regard.
What gives you that impression?
It's just this place. I imagine not everybody is going to be happy that there are outsiders looking into these matters. Not even necessarily the actual perpetrators. Obviously, they are not going to be happy. But just people who think we are interfering with matters that do not concern us.
That may be true, but if they brought us here for, I don't know, what was the old saying of human? A fresh pair of eyes?
I don't think it's that. I think it's because we're outsiders that we aren't beholden to any of the typical norms. We don't know what's expected. We don't know what people do.
We can come up with conjecture on our purpose here, but we have a job to do.
Admittedly, we do offer neutrality.
That's true.
We do not service any of this pantheon, and at least I am not one of these hopeful. So there's little chance that we will let's say decide in anybody's favor in the hope of gaining favors in return.
We could at least bring members of the Pantheon together to at least assist us. We have Sir Percival's backing.
I think let's reserve that for now. Let's start small.
That's true, yes.
Well, we'll see what this Lord Thoth. I'm sorry.
Lord Thoth.
That name is difficult to say for me. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
What he says. Out of character. TH is evil.
It's not evil.
Why are you putting it everywhere in your language?
The best part is it's THOTH.
I know.
It's there twice.
Thoth.
Would you rather we pronounced it in the Egyptian pronunciation?
Well, I have
God.
no idea what the Egyptian pronunciation is, so.
Arcane knows, definitely.
If you would be so kind as to inform our friend.
It's basically hell.
What?
Just go ahead, say it.
Well, I mean, I might be wrong because I haven't heard anybody else say it, but it looks like ooh.
Mm-hmm.
That's easier to say.
Yeah, but also not understood by English speakers.
Oh.
Sorry, what?
Anyway,
Let's
so
at least clean it. Let's at
you-
least get ready.
finished bathing. It was indeed pleasant, and you're pretty sure that was flow form. Pretty sure.
Yeah, pretty sure.
And you're also pretty sure that at some point somebody was ogling someone else's bits.
Probably Cecily's looking at Percival's beds.
Hey, I didn't say it was the NPCs looking at the NPCs. I'm saying the opposite.
Daxon seems to have no shame or reservations about this sort of thing. Like I said, co-ed lockers.
They towel whipped it out of you, didn't they?
More like if like he got Izzy in the IRPF locker room, the other IRPF officers probably would have beaten the crap out of him, or
Got
vice
it.
versa.
So soap in the sock then.
Exactly.
Now, unfortunately, I was unable to finish the map, so I won't be able to show you Thoth's library as it is. I apologize,
It's okay.
but
You can always have a placeholder.
yeah, no. It's bad. It's bad mojo, my dude. But now that you're in these surprisingly comfortable robes, they may not look very good, but damn, are they comfy.
Are they warm? I was wearing 3 layers coming in here, and I'm worried I'm going to be cold.
In the
Well-
desert?
Well, the desert was like kind of like, okay. But I got no fat, no muscle. I'm super skinny. So cold is a very sensitive thing. Like if I tried to get out of the bath too quickly after being in there, I'd probably be freezing and have to jump back down into the water.
Like, you need to get some meat on you.
Actually, funnily enough, Daxon has the grizzled trait, which lets him ignore the first check to endure hostile environments. So he's completely unbothered by the heat.
And while it is uncomfortable, it is not so much so that it would make you unable to function. You're just gonna sweat a little bit more.
Or in the meantime, I'm probably going to throw my first layer on underneath the robe.
Alright. So as you make your way out of the home and back into the hot, hot sun, For the briefest of moments, you feel very much like you're somewhere completely foreign and alien to yourselves. While the plains very quickly bleed into a desert, you realize that some form of visual illusion is present, as it doesn't take nearly as long as you thought it would to get where you're going. It still feels like a journey, but that might only be a perception. Your mind playing tricks on you because of what your eyes see.
Interesting.
Once you get to the riverside, it is incredibly verdant and lush. Palm trees and all manner of flora and fauna of brightly colors and strong greens everywhere. Statues and columns in a distinct sandstone-colored style adorn its side. And a large building made in a similar style with massive columns, not unlike the pagoda, but upon closer inspection have a unique style all their own. Inscriptions cover them everywhere, from the very top to the bottom. The whole of it is as ornate and showy as any high-rise you've ever been to. And completely different. You notice that the various vectors and even the cogs wear little, and to accommodate the heat. It's not unpleasant here, though, with the cool breeze wafting off of the river. It is not wide nor exceedingly deep, simply pleasant. Here and there you spot fish, and you begin to wonder just how much all this nonsense really cost.
Imagine it's almost self-sustaining because it's such a huge ecosystem.
It'll still cost a lot to maintain.
Also may cost someone's firstborn son.
References. Now, as you enter the building at the behest of Percival, you are greeted by a bird. A bird at least 10 feet tall.
Oh.
While he doesn't look anywhere nearly as muscular or toned as Percival. In fact, if anything, if he was standard vectored size, you would almost say he looks bookish. If not for the fact that gold, or at least something that looks like gold, adorns his wrists and fingers and ankles. His feet are unshod and very clearly large bird-like ones, not unlike Cecily's. He has wings in the angel style coming off of his back. And almost a sort of anachronism, a pair of simple round spectacles sit on his beak.
Charming.
Everything else practically screams an age of bygone history. It's easy to see why someone like this could be revered as a god of sorts. When he speaks, his tone is measured, calm, and almost feels grandfatherly with how gentle it is. You must be my guests. I welcome you. May you find shade and water on this day and all days.
Well, Daxon will show due respect and will bow.
Yep.
Kneel.
Don't forget to kneel.
I believe kneeling was suggested, so.
Yep, he'll kneel.
Bow into a kneel.
I just simply bow.
We shall call it a beal.
Beal.
Yes.
We're doing it Twitter style then? Making new words out of the two words and jamming together, hoping it sounds vaguely okay.
Hashtag beeling.
Exactly.
At least it's not a Tebow. I see Percival has taken his time to teach you things. Well done, Percival. You'll notice that Percival himself has knelt beside you and bows his head and says, quietly but fervently, "My lord." Please, arise. You are guests here, and you are not my servants. So we will speak as equals. It will be a novelty.
That's rather quirky.
I have been told by my fellows that I am an odd duck. Clearly I'm an ibis, but I understand the joke. He gestures to a table which is sized for him, and then you notice that there are smaller tables that are raised up slightly so that they can be level with his. On a
Oh, so we have the kiddie
dais of
tables.
sorts.
More or less.
Considering how when he sits down, he's probably at least eye level, if not taller. Yeah, you can see why they might do that.
I prefer to think of it that he has the only grown-up table.
He is the only grown-up table. Everyone else has small children's tables.
Basically.
Exactly.
Now then, tell me of yourselves. I wish to know whom I employ.
No, Daxon kind of looks around at the others and after a moment says, well, sir, I served almost a decade in the inner-ring police force, mostly doing station security work and police work. Also some training services, specializing in search and rescue.
And I believe that you did more than a few... What were they called? Presentations? Some for schools, I believe?
That's correct, sir. I was tapped to do public outreach presentations at multiple schools and across corp towns on Mars. Mostly in my hometown, Meridian.
If you would all do me a solid, we're going to have you make some rolls real quick.
Yay!
Okay.
What do we roll?
I need you to do either a mind perceive or a body perceive. And this is going to be communication.
Communication.
Okay, so I have 2 ranks and a boon in communication, and I have 1 in... I'm going to choose body, so I have 1 in that. So what exactly am I rolling?
So first is your physical state, which is probably good. So or you know,
A D10.
yeah,
Yes.
a D10. It's not bad, so it's a D10.
Okay.
Would need very special circumstances for it to be a D12, and it would be D8 if you were like badly hurt or something.
Well, I
So,
mean, doesn't one of the dice also get affected by the difficulty of the check?
Well, we're getting to that.
Let Tygon go through it. He's got a good roll going.
Yeah. Second one is the proficiency die, which is normally a D10. You said you had a boon, so it's a D12.
Yep, so 2d12 for me.
What?
No, D10, D12. Were you not
Oh, D10.
listening?
Oh, d10 plus d12.
There
Yeah.
you are.
You add to that your trait score, so whatever you have in body or mind perceive.
Okay.
And if you can, if you have anything, there might be a tool bonus. No, that depends on the check.
Okay, so 2d10 plus 1d12 plus 2.
No, Arcane, you only have 2 dice total.
Okay. Just 2 of them.
And do I add my ranks in the skill?
No, I do not think so. The
I don't
final
think
roll
so.
will be stat die plus proficiency die plus trait score plus equipment bonus if there is one.
Okay, and I doubt there is a equipment bonus. So 1d10 plus 1d12 plus 1.
Two d10 plus 1d12 plus
Not bad.
12.
Just looking through it if I got this right.
My first roll of the game was somewhat mercifully decent.
And I got a great roll for my first one. Okay, so 2d plus 12. Let's go.
No, Arcane, you did that wrong.
Oh, great.
It's 1d10, 1d12.
Oh,
D3
1d10.
roll.
1d10 plus 1d12. Okay.
Yep.
Ugh.
Okay.
I got 2 on mine, so would that work? No.
I'm doing mind perceive because I have 2 in that. So should be this. Well,
Oh, plus 2, so that would be 11 for me.
Now then, Cecily, I'm not going, and Cecily and Dr. Reese are both distracted. I'm going to say it's because he's got some pretty rockin' plumage. It's pretty good. Not necessarily, oh hey, look at me, so sexy. Just no, it's just pretty vibrant. That's pretty good stuff. You'd be distracted by that even if it was on a normal sized vector.
That's some
It's like having
solid
a massive-
feathering there.
It's like having a massive mohawk. Even if you aren't into that thing, it's still pretty eye catching.
Like, Cecily's gonna take some pointers on what products he's using.
Feather conditioners, trade swap beauty secrets.
Exactly.
Oh, I didn't know that brand existed. I made it myself.
I made it myself. I'm buying it.
But as for Nusig and Jackson, the pair of you notice something that as this story's gone into, Thoth doesn't seem to be surprised by any of this information. In fact, he seems to be following along and checking off a sort of mental checkbox as you hit certain points.
I.e., he probably did his research.
Thank you. Now, you, with the feathers. It's always nice to speak with a fellow avian. What of you, friend?
I am. My name is Cecily Acidelia, Lord Soth.
An old name, that.
That brings a smile to her face, and she says yes. Very, very proud of my family. I have been working for the IRPF for several years now as a detective. Recently moved to the Valles Marineris on Mars.
And how did you enjoy your stay on Mars?
I've been living there practically all my life. It's a wonderful place. I mean, it's my home.
One would hope home was a pleasant place to be. It is not always the case, but one hopes.
I never actually really thought about that much. It's just always been there. And she actually looks a little thoughtful at that. Kind of realizing, yeah, I never really thought about that.
I am always glad to help someone look at things in a new way. The taciturn one. You, the horns. Dr. Reese Lucifer, I presume.
Yes, that is.
Tell me of yourself.
Reese kind of looks a bit annoyed from trying to speak of his past, but there was a slight tinge of annoyance, but he just admits defeat and just tells him to do so. I was born and raised in Triton, one of the moons of Neptune. My family was rather gifted in the science of both physics and medicine. It wasn't hard for me to be fully medical from my father's side of the family. He enrolled me into a Progenitors Academy, and I passed with very flying colors as one of the youngest graduates, as I served Progenitors for a couple of years. I did my fair share of autopsies, surgeries, all that knowledge of the vector and cog, no vector anatomy. Then I just simply wanted to do my own thing, as I did open a bit of a I did open
practice?
personal practice, yes. Though people were skeptical, but they seemed to come over somewhat frequently.
Thank you. I imagine that was somewhat difficult to share.
He just nods.
And not last, but definitely not least, the Orca. If you grace us, that is.
Yes, sir. He starts to stammer and gets a little nervous as his bioluminescence begins to flow and pulse outside of his control. Like he's barely, like he keeps forgetting to keep it off. Well, I've been working for TTI for as long as I can remember. I call myself an explorer because typically a navigator is somebody who knows a lot of things, whereas I don't. I'm whatever I seem to learn, and I'm forced to forget. So I've kind of gotten the idea that I'm extremely good at finding information that I shouldn't know, which is probably why I'm here.
And I am sure we will be better for having. I knew all this, of course. I will not put pretentious pride in the way of telling you the truth. I wanted to know how much truth you would tell me, how much I can trust you. My brother is dead. While we were not of blood, he was nonetheless my brother. I had known him for what? A century? Maybe longer? Well, Nordrund was not the gentlest of our pen. He was none the less a member. His murderer will be brought to justice, whether by your hands or by my own. However, I believe, and I was able to convince the council, that it would be better to bring in outsiders who could cut through our own set traditions to pry away our secrets and reveal the truth through an outsider's eyes. For too long, we have relied only on ourselves to police ourselves, to allow ourselves prejudice. I seek to repair that rift in our logic. And while that might not reopen our border, most certainly we should not be afraid to ask our neighbors for help. My library is open to you. You may ask the keepers of my books anything and everything you can think of that is necessary and pertinent to your investigation. One day I hope to open it properly, but for now I must keep what I have there secret. So I ask that you share nothing of what you learn in there, save where it most need be given. Do you understand?
Of course.
I nod.
Absolutely, sir.
Thank you. I have spent 2 lifetimes building it. I should truly hate for it to be squandered. Nordrund, his domain is adjacent to my own. I believe our superiors thought it humorous and ironic to have those who bickered the most be next door neighbors.
Though I wouldn't be surprised as both Brain and Bronze don't get along, but together they're a rather formidable team.
I have argued that same thing to Nordr. He wasn't very good at listening. Logic was never his strong suit. He preferred the way of the brute. Those who survive, survive because they are powerful. Those who die, die because they are weak. Same for ideas. I disagree, but I could see why he came to those conclusions. But I am rambling. You are not here to listen to an old bird go on about his brother. You are here to avenge that brother. I will see that proper keys and symbols are given to you. Sir Percival will act as your liaison. When you speak to him, you speak to me. Anything you report or find, please inform him, and I shall know. What I know, the council may learn. So before I dismiss you, that word, I don't like it. Before I allow you leave, I like that much better. Have you any questions for me?
I have
Would it be
one,
fun?
if I may.
Please.
Do you have any suspicions as to who committed this crime?
For the first time in the conversation, a dangerous glint enters his eye. And suddenly that very grandfatherly, leisurely conversational tone has a sharp bite to it. Suspicions. Suspicions are for the paranoid. And for those who know too much. And too little. I do not have suspicions as yet. I shall only take action when I have facts.
I understand.
My questions, my lord, are purely logistical in nature. I'm assuming we will have living and workspace accommodated for us.
Indeed, in the central court. I will not be joining you there, but Sir Percival will visit you from time to time, and you may visit him. As for the tools for your investigation, what you have brought with you and my library should be sufficient. But if you have other need, you have but to ask. It may well be granted to you. But remember, when you are in the domain of another lord or lady, they are the power there. They are the law. And while the great Zazared might be, I suppose, what one might call the king of us all, king of the gods, as it were, he largely allows us to go about our own musics. We are allowed the run of our lands. It is small, but it is home. And as you go into the higher realms, you will find beings the likes of which you have never seen elsewhere, should you be invited. I am a bit more humble, not near as much as good Radadosk, who prefers to live amongst his people. But I will not have some of the loftier domains. I do not need. This is more than enough.
Hmm. Would it be possible for us to possibly gain access to Nordrot's quarters to investigate the evidence?
I am glad you asked, Dr. You will be escorted there momentarily. It is unfortunate, but some of Nordrun's followers are a little distraught at the loss of their master. They might lash out at you if you are left unguarded and unprotected. And even then, some are just hard-headed enough to try anyway. While Percival himself has duties elsewhere, we will have formidable enough guards. Will that suit?
We don't know the layout of the land very well, but we will be grateful for that.
Excellent. Most excellent. Anything else?
Not
there
as of
anybody-
yet, my lord.
What were you saying, Starkovsky?
Is there anybody who's been acting different, who hasn't been acting differently since the event?
A few stoics here and there. It happens. But they are not irregular in that manner. They simply follow their nature. If that is all, I bid you a good day. I have another book to write. Transcribe. It may as well be the same thing at this point. The original author's been gone for over 3 centuries now. Poor fellow died in obscurity. He stands and is followed by a pair of attendants who you just noticed had been with him.
Never mind.
Their clothes are a little bit more revealing than some of the others, but not scandalously so. It is rather telling that one of them is a hawk, and the other seems to be a jackal.
Ha, I get it.
Really? Really, dude?
It is themed.
It is indeed.
This
Yeah.
dude loves his mythology.
I think on the Empyrean, the answer to the question, really, dude, is yes, really.
So now we're with the Egyptian, no, the Romans. Next is going to be the Norse who party so hard.
Or maybe they just do quilting, man. Don't judge.
You don't know.
Maybe
We
they're
don't.
beekeepers. How about that?
I mean, you have to get the mead somewhere.
And they have amazing lovers.
Yeah, all right. Let's not go there.
Also keep in mind this is like a Egyptian or whatever, not from our view, but from the view of however many 100 years from now.
Yeah.
So they probably get it wrong, and that's assuming. I mean, we are getting it wrong. I'm pretty sure.
Exactly. So something to keep in mind is that this is GM moment. Real quick. Something to keep in mind for the future sessions is that these aren't necessarily stereotypes, but neither are they not tropes. These people literally ascribed the idea that a dragon should be noble because its ancestry of the idea, the concept of a dragon, has so much power and respect built into it.
Mm-hmm.
And so these are people who would have someone who looks like a dragon run around and commit noble deeds of various daring do simply because of the way they look.
Yep.
So aesthetics, pretenses, assumptions, things like that are incredibly important to them. And so some people might get a little bit here and there. But I would remind them that, hey, this is all in good fun, and that these are, I wouldn't necessarily say caricatures, but tropes come at left ways. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So please forgive me if I indulge a little bit here and there.
So basically, as long as we don't come at them from right ways, we should be fine.
Basically, because if you do that, you're probably going to come to the wrong conclusion. Also, Willy Wonka's gonna ask why you did that in the elevator. Never mind the tiny orange men.
We don't talk about them. They were a failed Hemi-Vector shoot-off, and yeah.
You know... you know...
I wouldn't be surprised if we ever made a candy maker named Willy.
Now then, Percival, had been quiet for the most of this. But, he finally speaks up. As you can see. The Lord Thoth is very busy. But it is good of him to take the time to personally speak with you. And to remind you of the importance of what you are. You will be compensated handsomely. I will take you now to your quarters to get you proper dress. You may keep these robes. A gift from me to you.
Thank you.
I would suggest you wear something warm when we start.
Very well.
Very well.
Nordrun's domain is in the midst of winter at the moment. And with that in mind, I think we'll call it good. Anyone
Awesome.
opposed?
Mhm.
I think this is a good point.
Yep. Before anything else, there's one thing I would like to bring up.
Bring up away.
Namely, a small but significant mistake I made
Go ahead.
regarding the checks.
Go ahead.
Now we said it's the trait die and the stat die and the proficiency die and everything. That's all right. However, the boon actually changes your the first one, the trait die. The proficiency die changes depending on the difficulty of the check.
Oh, right.
You compare the difficulty of the check to your proficiency, and that will tell you what.
I have it all written out.
What kind of dice you roll, and under circumstances you also get a bonus on that. It also changes your tool bonus.
Okay, so basically, instead of the first one is hinged on boon or fault,
Yes.
the second one is hinged on the relative difference between your ranks in the skill and the difficulty of the check.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Also, Starkovsky.
Yeah.
Simplification and complications. Change the difficulty of a check so that way you can exceed the difficulty by more than 5.
Yeah, that makes sense. And technically, I had a family simplification to a perceived check, so I'll just have to keep that in mind going forward.
Yep.
Right, it's a new system. Always takes a while to get into.
Yeah, it's not as simple as I count the numbers and roll the dice.
Yeah.
Now then, everybody, 10 XP.
Yay!
Yay! Let's see what I can spend with 10 XP.
And I don't know where the credits are.
I don't
Is it
remember
like 200?
if that's actually still a thing. It used to be 50 per session.
Is it like 200 now or something? I don't know.
No. I
The-
don't remember for sure, but I think it's actually more likely that just a credit number per session is not a thing anymore.
Or it was forgotten to be included. Which happens.
We can look it up and edit
It's all
later.
good. We'll figure it out. Not a big deal. That said, welcome to Big Trouble in Little Emyprean!
Woo!
Yeah.
Yay! We're going to
Yay.
go find out who killed the dragon.
Just
Dragon Ball.
Just to establish, do we want to have a set window for when we're allowed to spend EXP on the progression chart?
Yes, in between sessions.
Okay, I'm just saying, like, in case we have, like a situation where a combat scene extends between sessions.
Well, in the case of a combat scene, I would allow it after combat has been resolved.
Okay.
Just because that makes more logical sense.
Sounds good to me.
Any questions?
No, not that I can think of.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Alright. Well, I think that's all then. Thanks for watching,
Alright.
viewers.
Thanks for joining us.
All one of you.
See you viewers next time.
Bye, viewers.
Bye.
Farewell.